everybody. Jeff and Joe and Paul and I just met with the legislative leadership on both sides of the aisle. I think I can tell you there was strong consensus that now is the time to provide immediate relief, aid to the people of Connecticut broadly in terms of inflationary pressures, and specifically as regards drivers getting hit at the pump. And there are a couple of ideas where we had consensus on, leadership on both sides of the aisle taking it back to the caucus. One, we're going to have a gas tax holiday regarding the 25-cent motor vehicle tax. We'd like to get that holiday kicking in as soon as we can, hopefully within a week. We want to make that available all the way through June 30. And I'd like to see if we can get that done on a bipartisan basis, provide immediate relief for Connecticut drivers at the pump. I can tell you we thought broadly about inflation as well, see if we can get a sales tax holiday in for that week, not wait till August, let's do that in April. We thought about how we can provide free bus service for the month of April for all buses here in the state of Connecticut, providing a little relief from people who maybe wouldn't have to get into a car and make it a little easier for people to get around during a time where inflation is up a lot. Look, the cost of gasoline is up about 75 cents since the invasion of Kuwait, 2.5 weeks ago. And I think you see inflation running through the system, and we want to provide that relief. We want to provide that relief up until July 1 for a couple of reasons. One, we're capped under the federal rules, the American Rescue Plan, the ARPA rules. We can only cut taxes so much. And under the spending cap rules established by the legislature, you can only increase spending by a certain amount. We have room to do that between now and June 30 without violating any of those federal rules, which is really important. And as you maybe remember, on July 1, I'd like to think by then we'll have immediate tax relief for the broadest group of Connecticut folks we can. I think you're going to see most Connecticut ratepayers will see a $200 or $300 reduction in their property tax on cars. That should provide immediate relief. The spiraling cost of inflation and what you see at the gas pump also hits people with fixed incomes particularly hard. That's why I'd like to think that we're going to have passed a end of the income tax, state income tax on pensions as well as 401k, which could represent thousands of dollars of additional resources for our folks on a fixed income as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from the legislative leadership. I think they're going to have their caucus meeting within 24 hours even, and see how fast we can move to provide relief for the people of Connecticut. And with that, we've got the folks here, how it impacts transportation, how it impacts ARPA, and a lot of those rules, and Paul can talk about what's next with the legislative leadership.
What would the impact be on the Special Transportation Fund, which until recently was in fairly shaky status?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Special Transportation Fund was bankrupt, as you remember, a few years ago. Given the high price of gasoline, we have now replenished up to a couple $100 million now in there. So we do have a little bit of breathing room. This tax cut with the motor vehicle tax would cost about $90 million between now and July 1. So we have some room to do that without impacting the Special Transportation Fund. If you went out longer, you would impact our ARPA ruling in terms of what you can cut, and you'd really impact the solvency of the Special Transportation Fund.
The $90 million is the tax cuts that are new, being discussed with leaders, or does that also include some of the other things that are in the works?
No, the $90 million is new. That's eliminate the motor vehicle tax, that 25-cent tax between now or as soon as we can, up until June 30.
You had mentioned last time that your concern was that the gas tax would lose about $70 billion. I wanted to make sure that the numbers add up. You're concerned that you use any federal money, the federal government won't want to see you reduce taxes and use that money. Will you use any of the federal money and do you think that the numbers will add up?
I can tell you the numbers add up. I can tell you the cuts that we are proposing, and I hope the legislature, verifies, all fit within the ARPA rules and keep the Special Transportation Fund more than solvent. We need a little bit of set-aside money when those competitive grants coming through, and Joe and Mark and team think we're in good shape there.
Any idea how much
$90 million bucks.
90 million.
Yep, between now and June 30.
The whole package, when you throw in the free bus service and things, what is the whole package?
Closer to 100. The sales tax holiday is, maybe $5 million. The bus service, depending on how it's configured, is a few million bucks for the month.
Did you guys actually agree amongst yourselves, you as the governor, they as legislative leaders, we're going to suspend this tax 25 cents or not? Is there an agreement?
I can tell you there was broad agreement on what we wanted to do. None of the leaders could speak on behalf of their caucuses, but I think they're going to advocate for this solution.
So is it possible that there could be a vote on this on Wednesday when the House and Senate meet?
I think that's possible. Wouldn't bother me at all, but let's let the leaders figure out what works for their schedule.
So the April sales tax holiday and clothing, that would be in addition to the one that traditionally happens in August then,
That's correct.
correct?
I think April's going to be a pretty good month for that.
I mean, where did that come from? Why did you choose April?
We choose April because A, we can afford to do it with the surplus without impacting the ARPA rules. B, I think right now with the incredibly high increase in inflation across the board, want to give people a little bit of relief. We can give them a 6.35% relief for a week in April.
Last week, there were 6 Democratic governors who were supporting the gas tax cut. Were you under pressure to do that? Do you think this has become political?
No, I've always supported that. I mean, I think it makes good sense for the feds to step up as well and provide some relief. And I think they can afford to do it.
Governor, why does this better plan than what the Republicans came up with last week on the emergency tax?
I think they're very similar, to be blunt about it. We had both said we wanted to provide immediate relief at the pump. We had talked about either a rebate or cutting the motor vehicle tax. I think we broadly agreed that the 25 cents is something we can support and pay for and keep the transportation fund solvent. So it's nice when we agree.
Was your view that this is faster? In other words, you're just cutting this at the pump, correct? You mentioned 5 days ago a rebate, which takes time. You got to get their checks, send them out, et cetera, et cetera. Did you decide on to do this because this is faster?
I think it was faster. It had already been pre-cleared by some of the caucuses. They were ready to go along these lines. Look, I worried a little bit, Chris, that I provide a 25-cent tax cut. Who says the middleman will pass it all along to you at the pump? So we're working on ways that we'll be able to hold people accountable. More on that to come.
Well, that's the thing. You know, we were told last week, well, we've got a 2012 law that says, you can't charge people more than your tax liability. So this will assure, the Republicans said, this will assure that the savings go on the consumer. Well, who says? How can you legally or constitutionally tell an industry that they've got to pass on this 25-cent savings to the customer?
Look, the market will determine. Everybody knows you're getting a 25-cent cut. I think a lot of the consumers will be out there looking for a 25-cent tax cut. We're going to be able to put in place some crowdsourcing that shows you those gas stations that provided a 25-cent tax cut. And if anybody's using this as a way to expand their profits, they'll probably hear from the Attorney General.
The free bus passes, did the Republicans agree to that?
I think they agreed to take that back to their caucus.
Okay, so that's not a done deal. And why give people who ride the bus relief? Prices haven't gone up for them.
Well, this is more my thing. I can tell you that broadly speaking, prices have gone up for everybody. It's not just at the pump. A number of people could choose between the bus and the car. It's relatively inexpensive for us to do, and I can provide a lot of relief to single moms or dads who maybe have to spend $4 or $5 to go get their groceries and come back. There'll be a savings for them.
On the timing, can you take us through the timing? In other words, say they vote on Wednesday. I assume this is immediately as you sign it. Are you saying by this weekend there could be a 25-cent gas tax cut?
I'm not sure the legislature is going to be able to move that fast, but you want to speak to that, Paul?
So to your question, Chris, obviously the governor wants to respect the legislative caucuses and their ability to talk to their members. Obviously they were there representing their members as members of leadership. Obviously, the governor would love for anything to be done in a very immediate time frame, but he also respects their legislative process. He did, in that meeting, in the meeting in which he called, provided a list of options that are things that he felt were important to deal with overall affordability here in the state of Connecticut, as well as to deal with what has occurred based upon the crisis in Ukraine from the Putin gas increases that we have seen not only in Connecticut but across the nation. So in terms of timing, yes, they are coming into session on Wednesday, but I think everyone knows that they need to be able to talk to their members, prepare them. OPM, Secretary Beckham and his team, and Commissioner Giletti and his team will be providing additional details based upon all those relevant aspects that were discussed in the meeting to fully prepare them for any caucuses that they have in the next 24 hours.
So is it 150 or 180 million that's going to cost the state?
For what?
For the excise tax?
Yeah, so 90. It's 90. It's 90 million.
Was there discussion about Wednesday? I mean, the governor said possible, but did that actually come up saying that that's a...
No, they wanted to say that they wanted to caucus. They left open a possibility. Obviously, they have an agenda that they have previously set for Wednesday. But obviously, the governor respects their legislative process. But we also understand the crisis that we're going through here in Connecticut, and we also understand that people are looking for relief. And the governor in this meeting asked them to go to their caucus and come back to us so we can see when a package of this type can be moved. But we respect their process.
Governor, so, and I know this is a hard thing to sort of assess, but can you give us your view as to what is the political relief of 25 cents a gallon off of what is approaching, for $65 a gallon versus real economic relief for people as opposed to the desire to be seen as doing something, the desire on your part and the part of the general assembly?
Well, is it enough? No. Is inflation a lot more than the tax cut we're providing? Yes. Is the tax cut we're providing now a bridge to a $300 million tax cut, early in the new fiscal year? Yes. But more importantly, I thought it was really important that we could work together, Republicans and Democrats, and come up with a bipartisan solution on this. We'll see what comes out of the caucus, but I think we have the opportunity to move quickly. Speed is pretty important here, I think.
Did you guys meet in person, or was it Zoom, or?
Zoom. Anything else? Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.